3 days of negotiations have just wrapped up between the U.S. and Ukraine. These talks coming after meetings in Moscow failed to reach an agreement to end the war. Here's ABC's Britt Clinton.
Russia launching another massive attack on Ukraine, hitting the country's infrastructure as it attempts to cripple its transportation links and energy supply. Overnight, hitting a railway hub in Kremenchuk in central Ukraine, one day after this train depot outside of Kyiv was struck. These latest strikes come as 3 days of peace talks wrapped up in Miami. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Ukrainian officials. In addition to those meetings, Ukrainian President Zelensky says he had a constructive call with Witkoff and Kushner on Saturday, saying the parties agreed on next steps without giving any details of what those were. Zelensky now heads to London for talks with European leaders.
They need to focus on Europe being the advocate for Ukraine. One, because of the first ceasefire proposal that was written was so pro-Russian, it wasn't until Ukraine and Secretary Rubio, quite frankly, got directly involved that it turned into the 19-point plan, which is much more amenable.
French President Emmanuel Macron says they must continue to exert pressure on Russia to compel it to choose peace.
They only will stop if they either think the consequences are too much to bear or the consequences actually cut off the funding needed.
Witkoff and Kushner traveled to Moscow last week, where they met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Trump describing it as a good meeting.
He would like to end the war. That was their impression.
The Kremlin describing the talks as useful, but saying no compromise plan was agreed to. And just last week, Putin saying he is ready in principle to fight to the last Ukrainian. Britt Clinton, ABC News, Kyiv.